do you kind of anticipate him getting some more minutes in this game?
Well, I think, the game will dictate that, and obviously I was really discouraged for DeAndre and for us. He had a heck of a year, and I thought he really developed and, helped us so much with his versatility offensively and defensively. We talked a lot about that. But that's you can't control the timing. Those things happen, and I think there's enough in that room. And, of course, as the old saying goes, next man up. You step up, and guys like Marco have to be ready, and just depending upon how the game goes, you see how it goes. But it was, an unfortunate thing, and he seems to be handling it well. And I think the guys, everybody wanted him to be part of this, but we're glad he's here, and we're going to have to fight like crazy to, like I said, keep going.
Third row on the aisle.
Hey, Tony. Gene Wong with the Washington Post. What do you see Mamadou's role being now that DeAndre is not going to be available, and what do you kind of anticipate from him going forward? Yeah,
I think it just, again, the game will dictate what you do, whether you're playing more traditional, and then guys like Mamadou and Marco, you mentioned, Nigel, those guys who have come off the bench for us, and DeAndre before, certainly have to be ready. And with the team that we're playing in UMBC, they spread the floor and they shoot the ball very well. Their foremen can, play almost like a perimeter, so you have to be ready for that, and it'll just be how we're defending and how they're guarding us. So I think you can't say until the game gets going, but you're hopeful that the guys like Mamadou and Nigel and Marco will, seize the opportunity, and the guys in the starting lineup will continue on.
Second row.
Yeah, Tony, seeing as
Hey, Doug.
Seeing as DeAndre hit 6 free throws in the final minute against Carolina, when did the injury occur? Was it in the Clemson game?
Yeah, he had sprained his right wrist. I can't remember when he did that, but that was taped for a while. But in the Clemson game, I think, it was when he went to the basket and then he ended up playing. He had x-rays and everything was looking good, and it wasn't until when we got back and it still was bothering him, and then he had an MRI, which was the definitive thing. So I think it's just a real slight crack, but on his left, correct. And, your job as the coach, certainly, and with these young men, is to protect them. And he has such a nice future. And I think DeAndre would have tried to play, but long-term, that's not the wise thing. It's to get this taken care of and do it the right way and give him the best chance for a full recovery, which is certainly what we expect. But it was, I believe it was in that Clemson game, I think, when he landed.
First row right in front of me.
Yeah, Tony, Dan Wolken, USA Today. Obviously you guys have been a #1 seed before. You've been good for a long time. But given the season you've had, how do you assess the opportunity in front of your team going into this tournament? And also, do you need to break through to a Final Four to kind of get rid of maybe the final narratives that hang on to your program?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, to be given a #1 seed is, it's kind of a reflection of the year that we had. And it's an honor, but really what it does is it earns you the right to play one game. And we've earned that right, just as UMBC did. And you got to play and earn the right to get a next game. But it was a heck of a year, and I think our guys, of course, every program wants to win a national championship and get a Final Four berth, those kinds of things. I was fortunate enough to be with my father when his program at Wisconsin went there, and that was a great run. But, as far as our program, I'd love it, but I know the way to do that is to lock in and say, all right, earn the right to get to the next game. And there's so many good things that have happened this year that, won't be taken away, but, how you choose to judge your program. Yeah, I look in our league, you look at the programs like Duke and Carolina and the national championships, they've done that. That's why we're just continuing to try to knock. We always talk, we got a door knocker in our locker room, just keep knocking and a step at a time. So tremendous opportunity, certainly. We received the opportunity to compete against UMBC, and I think I told our guys maybe a month ago, I mentioned it to our media many times, to not overcomplicate it. Just to be clear-minded, don't worry about seedings, how far you go, what happens. Just have a mindset, we're going to improve, we're going to play to win, and we're going to be ready to go. And I think that not complicating is the best way for us to have as much success as we can.
To our right on the aisle, standing up.
Tony, Phil Orban from WSOC in Charlotte. We talked about this a few years ago when you guys were playing here, former Charlotte Hornet coming back. What are your memories from the city? What's it like coming back, and
Yeah,
your thoughts on it?
this has been I have wonderful memories of Charlotte. It's where a couple dreams come true happened. One, I had a dream as a young boy to one day could I play in the NBA, and I was given that opportunity by the Hornets. I think Dave Twardzik, maybe he was the one in the war room saying we should draft the little lefty from Wisconsin, Green Bay. But to play on that Hornets team, to be part of a playoff team and some special years here with great teammates was a dream come true for me. And then I got to meet my wife here. She's not from here. She's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but she was an assistant youth director at the church, Forest Hill, that I went to. So, when you meet your wife and you get to play in the NBA, it's more important to meet your wife. Let's get that straight so I don't get in trouble here. That's the first one. But second, those are two pretty awesome things that happened here, and got to meet wonderful people that I was part of this community when the Charlotte Hornets, the Hive was alive, the Coliseum was great. So I cherish those memories, and just, again, thankful that where this road's taken me.
Middle of the room to the right.
Dick Cox with Cox Sports Broadcasting. Tony, a lot of players never get to play in the tournament. A lot of coaches never make it to the tournament. You've done both. What does it mean to you now to get to be a coach and bring your team back to the tournament?
It's great. When I played at Wisconsin Green Bay, that was such a, we'd have to win our conference tournament and then get the chance to do that. And I remember how exciting that was for our city and our university. And the NCAA tournament is amazing. I mean, the regular season championship is amazing. The conference tournament, and then the NCAA tournament. So much has been made of it, and rightly so. And I think it's the most exciting sporting events going. A little bias, of course, but to be able to, as a player, do it, and then get the perspective to watch your young men have the excitement and the opportunities to play is great. And then to step into it, in arenas like this with, and it's just gotten more coverage, more excitement I think is wonderful.
Let's go back of the room on the aisle.
Tony, Brendan Mark, Charlotte Observer. Other than the dramatic way that UMBC sort of made it into the tournament, what have you learned about them from watching the film, and what are you expecting tomorrow? Well,
I think being Coach Odom, Ryan, both of us being coaches' sons, I think in 2 years what he's done with that program is terrific, how they've played. And I've been really impressed in watching them on tape. They shoot almost 40%, 39% from three. They shoot 20 plus, make 10, and they spread the floor. Their foreman can shoot. Jarius Lyles is a heck of a player. I think he had 31 against Arizona. I didn't realize their point guard was Defensive Player of the Year. I can see it because he's quick. They really spread the floor and attack and play hard and are well coached. And that's the thing, when I was at Green Bay, we always talked about this. Good basketball knows no limits, knows no divisions. It doesn't matter what conference you're from, what your seeding is. Good basketball sticks, and it shows. And I think for them to go into Vermont and beat them in the ball they've played is very good. And that's, again, as I get back to, like we said, you don't overcomplicate it. You try to improve, and you play it to win. And, you prepare well. And you have to prepare well to play a UMBC because of their uniqueness and their spacing and all of those things. Run very good offense.
Second row.
As you may have heard, Ryan Odom is a former UVA ball boy. Were you ever a ball boy?
I was something called, my dad was a coach at University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, and I was what they called a pointer pup. So we'd go out at halftime, and we'd get to do the ball. Actually, you'll see when we go, not that you guys will watch, but when we go out there to warm up, and we do a little ball handling routine. It's the Pete Maravich, you pound the ball, you're in a circle. The pointer pups would go out there, and we'd round the right leg, left leg, dribble it high, dribble it low at halftime in front of the crowd. So it was kind of that, and then a lot of times, I'd sit right behind the bench and did some things for my dad's team. That's when Terry Porter and Brad Soderberg, one of my assistants, not to date Brad here, but was playing where they were playing for my father, but a pointer pup. So, and I know obviously Coach Odom when he was at UVA, and Ryan was at Virginia Tech, and a lot of good places.
Right aisle.
I wasn't sure if you were using that as an analogy, but do you really have a door knocker back in Virginia?
Yeah,
and,
yeah. No,
and,
that's
and
something.
why did you put that there?
No, just ever since I've been coaching, and not to make a big deal out of it, but even at Washington State, I think we acknowledge that that's the way to touch something special. You just keep knocking, and sometimes the door gets slammed in your face, and sometimes you knock and it opens an inch, and you try to put your foot in there and your shoulder, and you just keep knocking and try to bust through that door, and that's the mentality. So we had that at Washington State all my years before we go out a door knocker, and have it at Virginia just as a symbol. You know, so many programs have different things, and I think it symbolizes that. As a matter of fact, I get a lot of texts from former players, and it's a lot of times, keep knocking, coach. And I think that's a great way to describe a program that is, you know, we're trying to be as blue collar as we can, but pursue excellence in the best manner that we know how, and it's our way. It's not other ways, and wherever that takes us, it takes us.
Right aisle again.
Tony, as I walked in, you were talking about them offensively, but I'm curious defensively. They seem fairly multiple.
Yep.
In terms of prepping for their defense, what do you see and what's allowed them to improve on that end this season?
Yeah, well, Ryan's a good coach, and you know, they have some quickness, and they can go down the floor and put some pressure on you, whether it's three-quarter court or make it hard for you. And then they've played some good zone, and again, they can pressure the ball with their quickness and their versatility. So you just have to be ready and be sound with the ball. They've turned, I thought they turned the game around against Vermont. They got after it and showed them a few different looks, but very capable. And again, being a coach's son, you have to make your team play defense or your dad's disown you. So that's kind of one of the rules of being a coach's son.
Third row aisle.
Yeah, Kip Coons from the Raleigh News and Observer. Tony, as a shooter from your background, when you look at a player like Kyle Guy, first of all, he's had a special year, but secondly, is his release among the fastest that you've ever seen as a player or coach?
Del Curry had a pretty quick release when I played with him here, really quick. That was just a wrist flip and it was off. But Kyle has a very quick release, quick setup, and sometimes he can even adjust in the air, and he's got live legs. You know, you watch those guys. Joe Harris played for us. He had a quick release. I was fortunate enough to coach Klay Thompson, one of the quickest release, but Kyle's up there. He really does have a real quick release and again, a good footwork and moves hard without the ball, and sometimes he'll adjust in the air and turn a little bit, which a lot of guys can't. J.J. Redick could do it, Rip Hamilton. There's just some of those guys you'd watch and they have that, and Kyle has that kind of footwork and ability to get it off that is, at his size is good. And he gets off the floor a little more than you think. If you saw his 2 dunks in the ACC tournament, you know that. So,
back of the room in the middle.
Tony, I know you're a man of strong faith. How has your faith been important in your coaching?
Yeah, it's for me, everybody believes what they're going to believe, but that has been my foundation in my life for so long, and it gives me a peace and a perspective that really helps me and guides me in terms of how to treat these young men, how to coach, how to honor the opportunity that I've been given. Because I look at being a coach as a tremendous opportunity, as a gift, really, to try to influence young men to be all they can be. Obviously, as players, as a team, and sports gives you great lessons, but if there's life lessons after, we have some pillars we talk about that are about humility, passion, unity, servanthood that really make, I think, for a great team, but there's some life lessons in there too. So for me, it's number one in my life, what matters most without a doubt, then in my relationship with my wife and my family, and then the opportunity to be with young men and coach. So very thankful to certainly have that as my rock.
Any other questions? Last 2. Front row here.
Tony, just to go back to the keep knocking theme, after the Syracuse game, I was there in Chicago. You kind of freaked me out with how calm and you were. You didn't seem to be fazed at all by what happened there. As you went into that to reform the program to have the team you have now, was that just sort of the perspective that you had to take on it? Was we knocked once, didn't break it down, got to go try again? Was that kind of how you thought of it?
Well, yeah. I think that mentality, and as the gentleman just asked, my faith helps me in situations like that to see a bigger picture and a perspective. Doesn't mean it doesn't sting and you don't want to be there, but that's life. You're not always going to get what you want, and we were on the doorstep of perhaps advancing, then you advance, and there's always going to be what's next, what's next. Nothing's ever enough. I understand that all these things are going to fade, but that idea of knocking after that game, we addressed, how can we improve? Every tough defeat, every tough loss, I think brings incredible wisdom, and that's one of our pillars about thankfulness is will you be thankful for what adversity or losing teaches you? And if you're able to look at it as not enjoyable as it is and really glean from it, I think you can grow in ways you probably wouldn't grow in success. And of course, after that, you look at things, how to improve your program. And I've been fortunate to have the right kind of guys. This year, no one expected us to be in this spot, but guys just have come together, and they're so connected and so unified. And now we've lost a key player, so we'll have to remain that way and even more so. But that tough loss, yeah, I think it helped. But a lot of these players weren't even a part of that. Devin, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isaiah, Devin and Isaiah, they're going to get mad at me. Those guys, this is a different time. It's a different year, and I think that's important to not dwell too much on the past.
Last question, far left.
Hey, Coach. Gabe Fernandez, Sporting News. As you've seen your team transition from the regular season to the postseason, has there been any particular player that you've seen, maybe behind the scenes in practice, really make a postseason leap, or do you think it's just kind of continued a season-long progression for your team?
I think it's been a season-long progression. I think everybody, what's made this team thus far be where they've been at is they've improved in the offseason, had real good off seasons with their individual skill development and their weight room stuff. All those things have mattered, and I think collectively that's lifted them up. And there's some guys with uncertainty. We were, unproven, and they've stepped up well. And again, there's been a unique chemistry in how they've played. So I think that's continued on, and it'll have to obviously keep continuing for sure. But different guys at different times. DeAndre, when we played at Virginia Tech, he was a catalyst in it. Like, he kind of came on. Mamadi, Jack, different guys. That's been unique about this team, have stepped up when called upon or when needed. And you can't just put your finger on one guy.